Here we are, guys. You join me at the Cornish Riviera in the UK. Beautiful place, beautiful weather. Summer's nearly here. It's all good. And what I wanted to do today was just talk a bit about the fact that you're not her best option, right? Okay, so there's this expression that gets used a lot in the I don't even want to say community because I hate that term really. It's but there's an expression that gets used a lot by people who are dating coaches or purport to be dating experts or whatever, and they will talk a lot about, well, are you her best option, right? Because the idea is that women will want to trade up. You know, obviously they want the best deal that they can possibly get in the dating marketplace, and you know, and let's be honest, I mean, guys do as well, but it's, you know, perhaps been less publicised over the decades and the centuries that women, you know, can be quite ruthless about getting the best possible deal that they can, snagging the best guy that they can, if you like. And so the advice that often gets given by the dating coaches, the dating gurus, whatever you want to call it, is to say, you've got to be her best option. You have got to be that guy, right? You've got to be the most alpha. You've got to be the most, well, whatever it is, really. I mean, what are the key things? You know, are you charismatic? Are you articulate? Are you socially dominant or socially adept at least? You know, how are your finances? How do you look? Are you jacked? Etc. 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 You know, all of the things that make up a you know, high quality guy, right? And so the advice is always, well, look, you have got to be her best option. The truth of the matter is, though, and I'm sorry to have to be the bearer of bad tidings, you are never going to be her best option. Okay, it is just mathematically, statistically impossible for you to be her best option. Because there is always going to be someone out there who is better than you. There's always somebody who is better looking. There's always somebody who's taller. There's always somebody who's more ripped, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that's not to say don't improve yourself, because obviously a big part of the message that gets propagated, you know, in this space is that you need to do self-improvement. You need to make yourself into the best possible guy that you could be. And I 100%, 110%, 1000% stand behind that. I think you absolutely should do that. Of course, you should be doing that for yourself. You shouldn't be doing that, you know, in order to date or whatever. But yeah, you should. Of course, you should be doing that. You should be making yourself better in all of the key areas: money, muscles, game, frame, as John will talk about. But you also have to be realistic, and you have to recognise that we are now in this this dating marketplace that is global, right? It is a global dating marketplace. You know, you look at Instagram, you're not just seeing accounts from your town or from your county, you're seeing accounts from all over the world, and so are the girls that you want to date, okay? You are always going to be compared to other guys, and often you're going to be compared unfavorably to other guys, okay? Because there's always somebody better than you. And I don't care who's watching this, I don't care how badass or alpha you think you are or whatever, there's still someone better than you, okay? And you know, this is a function really of human nature, because the reality is, and the problem with relationships, the ultimate problem with long-term relationships is that we all get bored. You know, we all kind of get bored with one another in the end, right? So yeah, you know, we all kind of get bored with one another in the end, right? And that goes for women, but it also goes for men as well. And that's why longer term things, it's very hard to, you know, it's very hard to keep it going, okay? Or at least it may not be hard to keep it going, but it's hard to keep that sort of spark there. It's hard to keep that kind of passion there, you know, whatever. And so for that reason, all right, there's always going to be, she's always going to be looking around at the market, okay? She's always going to be looking around, so not necessarily overtly at the beginning or whatever, you know, not saying she's going to do anything, but she's always going to be conscious. She's going to have an eye to the market. She's going to look around. And because of the just a huge pool of people that we can now be in contact with via the internet, via Instagram, or Tinder, whatever. Inevitably, she is going to find, or she's going to she's going to identify, she's going to see guys who are better than you. Okay, it's just a part of life. So what can you do about that? Well, the one thing you can do, and we see this with some content creators, is you try to be the best at absolutely everything. Or you try to pretend to be probably more realistic. You try to pretend to yourself and to her and to the internet that you are absolutely the best at everything. So you are the most jacked, you are the best looking, you are the most intelligent, you are a chess grandmaster, you are this, you are that, blah, blah, blah. I'm the best at absolutely every fucking thing. There is nobody who is more alpha. There is nobody who is, a higher level guy than me. But you're kidding yourself, right? You're kidding yourself, because you can tell yourself that you're great at all of those things, and you might be kind of great at a couple of them, and you might be okay at the others. But nobody genuinely is hitting all the spots. I mean, I know guys who are incredibly alpha. They're really jacked, really built, whatever. And they also claim to be these huge intellectuals, and I'm a bit like, well, hang on a minute. I mean, I've heard you talk, I've listened to your ideas. You are a smart guy. Are you Nietzsche? No. So let's not pretend. Let's not pretend that you're ticking every single box, because you're not. Okay. There's always value, of course, in being in shape, in staying lean, getting jacked, whatever it is. But are you going to become the most lean, the most jacked? It's unlikely. It's unlikely. You can try, and that's a good thing to do. But I think ultimately you're just going to have to accept the fact that relationships really are kind of finite. Relationships are on a timeline. And most relationships, I'm afraid, have an expiration date. That's just the reality of it. Most relationships that you have with women have an expiration date. She is going to dump you at some point, or you're going to get bored with her and cheat on her. Maybe you're going to split up with her. Maybe it's going to be mutual. I mean, most of the time, as we know, most of the time it's the woman who initiates the breakup. I think there's a statistic that floats around about 70% of divorces being initiated by women. So most of the time, she's going to end the relationship, okay? But maybe you end it. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that most relationships are not built to last, okay? And so, for that reason, the fact that you're not her best option, and look, there's no absolutes here. We're not talking about objective facts. We're talking very much about perception, okay? You might be, in many ways, say she cheats on you, you might be in many ways a far better specimen than the guy that she decides to go off with, okay, or she cheats with, right? Objectively, maybe that case could be made, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the objective truth is, if that could even be said to be an objective truth, because what matters is how she perceives it, right? And in that moment, or in the moment of her cheating or deciding to leave you for this other dude, she regards him as being the better option than you. And as I say, for me, there is an inevitability about this, because human beings all, in the end, get bored, okay? Now, it might take a long time to get bored. A monogamous relationship, you guys are together 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 10 years maybe. But in the end, I'm afraid, that familiarity is going to set in, that sameness, that sense of, we're just doing the same old thing again. I've seen this person so many times, I know all their habits, it's just a bit boring. It doesn't have that same spark, okay? Now, what I'm not saying is that inevitably every single woman that you meet is going to cheat on you. I mean, these things shake down in many, many different ways, okay? What I am saying, though, is that there is an inevitability to the fact that this boredom factor will set in the relationship at some point, and she is going to, covertly have a look at the market, and she is going to see guys who she regards as being of higher value than you. Now, what she then chooses to do about that is, of course, up, it depends on the individual woman, it depends on the circumstances, the situation, whatever. Okay, so cheating all the time? No, absolutely not. Sometimes cheating occurs, sometimes she might just say she needs a break, sometimes she might just break off the relationship, or she might stay with you. She might just stay with you and not do any of those things, but become increasingly dissatisfied within herself because actually she's kind of not really feeling it with you anymore, but she's staying with you through love or through just, habit or whatever it is. Okay. Which is I suppose the best outcome in a sense, but it's also a very compromised outcome, isn't it? And it's actually the outcome that kind of is the template for most marriages, really, which is that the people are sort of, we're way past the honeymoon period, we're not having crazy wild sex anymore. And I'm not saying sex is the only thing, of course, but the problem is that the sexual component, that sexual spark, is the glue that bonds the relationship together. And when that starts to go, then what are you left with? Well, you might be left with something very nice, something very pleasant and something that you gain a lot of sustenance from, but it is much more of a partnership. It's much more of a sort of almost like a business relationship. It's been said that marriage is a kind of a form of business relationship, really, particularly when you bring like raising kids into it and stuff. So there's always going to be that better option, whether she acts on that or not. There's always going to be the better option. So I think a degree of acceptance is necessary. Now, not accepting her bad behaviour or accepting her going off with some other dude or something. I don't mean it like that. I mean just acceptance within yourself. Again, we always come down to the old cliches, really, but that's because the old cliches are true. You've got to just enjoy it for the moment. If you're in a relationship with somebody and, you guys are having a great time, you love her, she loves you, you're going on trips together, you're having great, the sex is great, whatever, right? Just enjoy that for now. But always be aware that at some point this may well end. And statistically, the likelihood is it is going to end. And I'm sorry to say that, but statistically the likelihood is that whatever the relationship you're in, it is at some point going to end. Because very few relationships actually last the distance, okay? Even if you guys get married, are you still going to be together in 40 years? It's going to be kind of a minority, isn't it? So that's the reality, and we just have to sort of accept the world for how it is, right? And it's all of this is underpinned by human nature. It's not that women are so terrible or society's so terrible or men are so terrible. It's just that we, as humans, we crave two things, right? We crave security, and we also crave variety. And unfortunately, those two things are opposed, and so you get into this sort of battle between the two urges, right? I mean, myself as an individual, I've had this. I love being in a secure relationship. I love having somebody there. I love having somebody to snuggle up with, Netflix, all of that. But I also love being able to have freedom, being able to travel, being able to go to different places, meet different people, etc., etc. I think all of us have that to a degree, including women as well, okay? And because of the way that society has changed, and because it's all been rehearsed many times, but because of the lack of restraints put on people breaking up and divorce and so on, there's not really much holding people from going their separate ways. Okay, it's not societally proscribed anymore for somebody to leave somebody else, even from a relationship or a marriage or whatever. Okay. So you just got to accept the reality of these things. Most relationships just aren't really built to last. Is that a bad thing? It's a bit of a shame in a way if you want the Disney fairy tale, but I think it's also a good starting point to look at your life and think, well, how am I going to plan things out? So what sort of dating life am I going to have? And you might make the decision, well, actually, look, I just don't think relationships, long-term monogamous relationships, I just don't really think they're for me. So what I'm going to do instead is X, Y, and Z. And X might be, well, I'm just going to date around and I'm going to travel and I'm going to meet different people and it's going to be great. Or, it might be that you think, okay, so I'm going to get into a relationship and I'm going to ensure that it is non-monogamous on my side or something like that. You might look at that model. Or you could go down the serial monogamy route, which is that you're monogamous to one girl for a while and then you guys split and then you go on to the next one and then the next one, and that's actually in the end is sort of default. That's what a lot of people end up doing. The problem with that solution though is that it is emotionally quite painful, right? Because it means you're going through a big breakup every 2 years, 18 months, whatever. But once you've accepted the reality of human nature and how relationships really are, and the fact that there is always going to be someone better than you out there, and boredom always sets in and relationships aren't necessarily built really to be forever, then you can start to look at this stuff in a more sane and sort of strategic way. And that's why we talk a lot about travel. We talk a lot about going to Eastern Europe, Colombia, places, South America, places like that, which are very good for the itinerant bachelor for various reasons. And and so you might want to start to look at that lifestyle and think, well, actually, maybe there's something in this. Maybe this is the way that I could start to organise my life, because we all have to choose our poison, and we all have to choose our own pleasure. And while there is pleasure in having a very close, deep relationship with somebody, there's also a lot of pleasure in freedom, right? Freedom is the ultimate, value for many of us, I think. And so it's really just about understanding how things actually are. For the most part, I mean, there are always exceptions to rules, but understanding how things are, and then using that as the basis on which to make your life decisions. Okay. So if you want to chat about that or anything, then you can always get in touch with me and book a consultation call. The link is below. Do please subscribe to the channel. Leave your comment in the description box below as well. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a like. Get on my free email list. Again, the link is below. Free email newsletter. And I've also got a bunch of books about dating, the dating marketplace, all of that good stuff. It's called Renegade Dating Blueprints. The link for that is in the description below as well. So, hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.